Okay, hi guys, welcome back to another review. Again, this is early days in this channel. My first time speaking on camera and stuff like that. So if you bear with me, it will get better. It's late at night here. I've got this sort of janky setup, lighting wise, because I'm not at my regular home because of the situation with COVID. I usually live in another country and I kind of get trapped over here. So everything will get better, I promise, and I'll try and keep these reviews as short as possible. But this is the Thieaudio Monarch earphone. Thieaudio is the house brand of Linsole.com. Linsole is, in my eyes, it's absolutely unquestioned. They are the leading driving force behind this chi-fi revolution of earphones. There's been a few other earphones here and there that have, made a bit of noise in the past, but Thieaudio has this very open and transparent policy of they produce an earphone, or they procure earphones from other companies, they bring it in, they send it out to reviewers, and they ask for absolute transparency because they want you to be honest. Because if you watch their stock, they take in an earphone, it comes out, people don't like it, they drop it. They don't cling on to this and try and push it onto you. And what you see is they go and give feedback to other companies, like, for example, there's Fearless Audio, LZ Audio, Tin Hi-Fi. They actually directly give feedback back to these companies, who in turn make the changes that the consumer wants. So in terms of us getting what we want as consumers, we've never been in a stronger position. It's directly from companies like Linsole, who are actively pushing the manufacturers to improve the market space. And it's showing in the way that they're sourcing new driver technologies, piezoelectric drivers, the carbon ceramic drivers, the electrostatic drivers, planar drivers. This is stuff that if we waited for Shure, Sony, some of these other companies, the big mainstream companies to come along and do, we would be waiting for forever, because they're just quite happy keeping something like the Shure SE215. They're happy to keep that on the market for like 7-8 years. And it's only recently that they've finally caught on that they're getting their asses handed to them. And they need to do something about it. So Shure's updated their line, but Westo and Sennheiser are on another planet with their wired headphones just now, with still selling the IE80S. So this is the Monarch. The Monarch is a multi-driver hybrid. When I say multi-driver, there's 3 different types of drivers in this. There's 1 dynamic driver, there's 6 balanced armatures, and there's 2 electrostatic drivers. They use a 4-way passive crossover, and I believe, you can't see it, but they say that there's 4 bores. So depending on how the configuration is to send that sound out, this is not a custom earphone, so you're not going to see the bores, and it's actually quite a good feature that they use metal on the nozzles instead of just an acrylic. This is, I'm going to get into the build quality, just a little bit about the build. As I say, I've been sort of displaced when I was conducting the Monarch review, and I get put into lockdown, and there's all sorts of issues with quarantine and stuff, so the box and the other accessories are in another house. This is a fantastic build quality, but we're going to get onto that, and first we're going to discuss the cable. The biggest thing that I've spoken to Linsole about over the past couple of years has been cable. I do not believe that changing a cable is going to make a difference in sound. I think a lot of people are hearing things, or they want to hear things, but I think a cable is a big part of the experience. You can get a good cable, you can get bad cable, you can get one that for example, this is KZ's recently improved cable. And you can see the way it sits, it's just kind of tangled, a little bit messy. This is quite possibly one of the best cables on the market right now. This is something that I would have paid hundreds of dollars for back in, 10, 15 years ago. I used to buy lab cables, which were super expensive 2-pin cables from Japan. And this is super premium quality. It has excellent characteristics. It's absolutely tangle resistant. You see, just one pull brings it apart. It has a nice flow to it. And it's very, very easy just to wrap it up, throw it in the bag, or throw it in the case, and it just kind of holds its shape. The only sort of gripe there's two gripes that I've got in the build quality of the Thieaudio Monarch. It's the 2-pin connectors and the nozzles. So this is an outstanding headphone, don't get me wrong. My issue with 2-pin connectors stems from something that used to happen a long time ago with my custom earphones. My custom earphones, if I ran in them, or living in Florida, I did a whole bunch of stuff out there. You can see that there's no seal here. You can actually barely see the pins. And what I was finding was that the corrosion would get in here and sort of work its way through. And only a couple of times did it actually affect the sound. But that's where I think something like KZ's hood method is going to be sort of the way forward for 2-pin connectors, and the reason why I currently prefer MMCX connectors. That aside, it's going to be personal preference. You can use aftermarket cables on these, but it would have been nice to have seen this recessed, or even with a KZ hood, although that would have limited your aftermarket options. Good point here, actually, I forgot to mention, is that you get this 2.5mm balance connector, and you do get these adapters. With the adapter, that's a pain in the ass for me. I don't want something that inflexible and that long. If you're going to give me an adapter, make it a right angle. Just it sort of makes say this is in my pocket. I'm using the balanced out from here. That's quite a long, from here to here is quite a long protrusion. With a right angle, it would sort of sit flush, and then the cable would come up. Still, it's good looking. It's very good quality hardware wise. I just wish that it was a right angle on the nozzle. This means that if you put something on, and it really doesn't take a lot of force just to pull it off. Whereas I hate bringing out this cheap earphone, but they've got a raised lip. If you can see it there, there's a raised lip that catches the silicone and stops it from coming off in your ear. Not something that happens a lot, but if you've got sweaty ears or you're in a humid environment, it might happen. The housing is an all resin housing with sort of clouded smoke. You can kind of see inside the housing. It has an absolutely stunning sort of cloud and fragmented shell pattern on the inside. They're just a really, really beautiful looking earphone. They're also not too wide. They're bigger than most people are used to. I would say that if you're medium to large size ears, this is going to be a good size earphone for you. Sits very comfortably, doesn't protrude too far from the side of your head, and it's very easy to get a good seal in your ear with a sort of medium to shallow insertion depth. Obviously the cable is going over the top of the ears. You're not going to have any problems with microphonics. It's completely eliminated on these. The body feels really solid. It's pretty lightweight considering how many drivers are stuffed inside it. And when you do look inside, it's really quite a magnificent thing to look at. You can see the balanced armature sitting in here, the dynamic back here. it's an impressive feat of engineering in itself. But is it, there's $200-300 earphones that have similar sort of designs, albeit not with such a beautiful faceplate on it, but certainly with the resin bodies on it. Sound-wise, these are probably all overkill. Surprisingly, these were quite an easy to drive set of earphones. I had no issues really powering them, even from just a jack adapter, a USB-C on my Samsung Galaxy Note 10 Plus, or a Google Pixel 3, I think. Pixel 3. These Yin Love Me M400, A2 and XP2 Pro, all fantastic delivery of power to this earphone. Same with the Shanling M6. I would assume that somebody that's going to be buying something like this is also going to be buying something like this. It's just part and parcel of the audio game. This and this sound fantastic with this. This is probably a little bit too cold. I found that it benefited. These two are more sort of natural sounding, more analog sounding, tubey sounding, whereas the X Duo products typically tend to skew a little bit more towards a colder presentation. So that was something that, it still gets good sound out of that, and you can tweak it with the various different presets and stuff. Gain wise, I had this on gain setting 1, no problem. Yeah, easy to drive, no problem. Now when it comes to sound, the mid-range sits slightly back from the highs, and the lows are very, very powerful. They're an energetic sounding earphone. They're very, very accurate. Excellent detail, unbelievable imaging. Just the clarity, detail, spaciousness. Soundstage is very good for an IEM. The bass is the more outstanding thing here, where it gives a solid thump but a solid rumble on the lowest of the lows, like when you're talking like the real sub bass regions, 2 feet, 2 feet. I can't remember the name of the track. I was using a lot of 2 feet tracks for the bass response. Quick musical doodles. 2 Feet's quick musical doodles had excellent bass response, but even when you were going into non-electronic music like jazz and stuff, this had a wonderful balance of just the right natural presentation and clarity through the mid-range, with the sort of brightness and energy from the highs paired with the ability of the low end to resonate. Like, so if you're hearing double bass slaps, you really feel a sort of vibration. That's where you get this benefit of the dynamic driver moving that volume of air as opposed to a balanced armature setup. I think the big one that I was going to compare it to in this sort of price range, although I think they've dropped in price a bit now, was something like the Fearless Audio S8P and S8Z. Both outstanding earphones for the price, but they're far different in the way that they present. These have far more quality in the sub bass regions, little less prominence into the mid bass. You would be buying both those earphones for very different purposes, I would say. These are truly unique. One of the best sounding earphones that I've heard all year, and really I've not heard the clairvoyance, but in comparison with something like the Thieaudio Legacy 5, which I reviewed here and wasn't that impressed with, these are a shining example of what Thieaudio are getting up to, and one of the best earphones that I've tested all year. So that's going to be it for this one. Sorry for making this 15 minutes. I'm really sorry. I don't know